place, like no place on earth. Some say to survive it, you need to be as mad as a hatter, which luckily, I am.
Charles Dodgson was a mathematician, Anglican deacon, photographer, and most importantly, an English author. He wrote under a pen name and was most commonly known as Lewis Carroll. His most famous writings, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and its sequel Through the Looking Glass, are examples of the genre of literary nonsense. He is noted for his use of wordplay, logic, and fantasy. He was an awkward man. He had a stammer to his speech and did not quite fit in with his peers even as an adult. And among his hobbies was photography, at which he became proficient. He excelled at photographing children to a point where critics today see him almost as a pedophile, especially since one of his prominent subjects was a little girl named Alice Liddell, one of the children of the deans at Christ Church, which he was a part of, and the model of the fictional Alice of his famous series. Lewis Carroll's time was of the Victorian era, a long period of peace, prosperity, and national self-confidence for Britain. It was a time characterized by scientific discoveries and rapid changes that came with the Industrial Revolution that transformed Great Britain into a technological powerhouse. This age saw the rise of a middle-class society that came with a spread of strict code of manners. As a result, by the 1860s, most people were of rigid and gloomy chastity, enveloped by a feeling that freedom and enjoyment of life was sinful, and its indulgence resulted in the risk of immortality, as portrayed in the literature of the time. Carroll reveals the influences of a new materialistic society made only of self-centered individuals overwhelmed with power who cause a loss of justice and order. The portrayal of the Queen of Hearts is parallel to the obsession of power that the political parties of Victorian England had, which only benefited other individuals of their high social class. She continually gives an order for execution with no hesitation, and without a proper trial, which alludes to an absolute monarch that believes that no mere peasant should question their rule. In this way, the Queen of Hearts does not give an incentive to promote ideas that will be better for the general public of her domain, but rather herself. Carroll uses this character to contrast the ideal of a good but powerful ruler, to rule with power and force, but to appeal to the people selflessly in order to stray from the dictatorship and the collapse of the country. Carroll mocks the rigid social order and restricting ideals of the time that limit the equality and the freedom of all individuals by using a rabbit to represent the upper class to show that fortunate individuals are animalistic as they have a hunger for power and are not considerate towards others around them, with merely just an instinct for self-preservation. Alice's surprised reaction of the white rabbit is parallel to what Carroll hopes is change in society towards the ability to form one's character, since individuals have the right to establish their own path in life instead of conforming to society's standards. During the Victorian era, a naturalist named Charles Darwin discovered the mechanism of evolution, in which certain traits of individuals are favored as a result of environmental pressures. This godless notion initiates doubt towards the strong beliefs that all citizens were raised on, and therefore changes one's self-perception to a character that is not true to the individual. Carroll shows this concept in his novel as a puzzled Alice observes a group of animals taking part in a race. As a devout clergyman himself, Carroll suggests that there is no stop to the endless cycle, an endless round of self-preservation with no definite outcome, since the presence of God has been lost. A loss of this presence will cause individuality to be lost as well, since there is no guidance for the human being. Alice's constant change of her physical form brings doubt to the individual, as this change can represent growing up and the uncertainty that it brings. This also represents the resentment towards growing up due to the negative examples that society shows to its children, advocating for beneficial change that will increase the advancement of the general public, since children hold the future. Carroll offers an escape to demonstrate how fear and anxiety from society causes one to take refuge in a dream world, showing man's doomed race against time and its constant threat since death is inevitable. Carroll's reference to time offers a brief but clear vision of its human significance. It determines humans' mortality and love. Time controls how long beings may live, teaching its victims to cherish every moment with one another, since death is constantly there, also limiting feelings and an individual's fate. Later, Alice discovers during the Mad Tea Party that Mad Hatter has fallen victim to time himself. For him, time is stuck at 6 o'clock forever. The standard view of time is infinite and orderly, another permanent fact that has a claim to existence that cannot be altered no matter what is done. Carol demonstrates how the effects of time can punish and severely torture an individual, an unavoidable danger that must be wary of.
You may have noticed that I'm not all there myself. And the more